Hi, my name is Mitch Mitchell. Today I'm going to tell a couple of stories that talks about inclusion or lack thereof and why we need more inclusion. I have had a lot of interesting things that have happened over the years, and when I talk to white people, they say, oh, well, you're just imagining things or you're making things up or maybe you're taking this wrong. You're taking it too personal. Then I talk to other minorities and they say, you're absolutely right. Same thing happens to me. It happens all the time. And as we're moving towards a society where in probably 20 to 25 years, there's going to be a majority that's minority in this country, I'm thinking it's time that we really start looking more at why we need more inclusion and how it can benefit everybody. The first story I'm going to tell is going to involve an organization called HFMA, which is the Healthcare Finance Management Association. It's a national organization for healthcare managers. Mainly it's chief financial officers who are a part of this group, but there's other people also. And I'm talking about my local chapter. I'm in the Syracuse, New York area. Now, to preface this, I was basically the president of an organization called the Mid-York Medical Management Association for about 15 years. And basically it was patient accounting people, which are the people who basically send out the bills, do the collection of the money. Sometimes we oversee registration, collection. I took on some other challenges just because I was one of those types of people. But when I went independent, I was still president of the organization. And, at a certain point, it was just me and the same people on the board because it was hard finding anyone else who wanted the job. So I stayed in the job. So in essence, there was a group of people who knew who I was. So that was one group. And then there was HFMA. Now, for someone to hire me for healthcare, mainly it's the people who are in the chief financial officer position. It's not CEOs because they're managing everything else. So it's the people who are CFOs and their counterparts. And so I was a member of that because as an independent, I needed to be around the types of people who may hire. This is just a smart business thing. And I was a member of that organization for maybe 8 or 9 years. And in 8 or 9 years, however long I was in there, I think there were 2 or 3 meetings ever where there was a person of color at a local meeting. Now, I've had to live with this my entire life. So that didn't really bother me. It never bothered me at all. You know what? I will go anywhere I feel like it. I'm as smart as anyone else. I was in the business. I would go there. But I always felt that there was this little bit of resistance. And I'm thinking, I've heard the people say, well, maybe you're just taking it wrong. And for business purposes, I didn't care. Because, you know what? I'm allowed to try to make a living just like anybody else. When it came to a head, it was interesting. It was an after-hour social event. Now, I don't know if the organization had ever really held one of those before, but they held one. They held it at an Irish bar in an area of town I knew pretty well. And so I went. Now, here's where the dynamic gets really interesting. I walk into the group, and there's a lot of folks there, and suddenly the vibe changed. I felt it. I like to say I'm really in touch with my feelings. I felt the vibe change. The first person I go up to happened to be someone I'd known for years. I'd known him almost 20 years. So him I talked to. He turned out to be the only white person I ended up talking to over the hour and a half I was there. I can't even believe I actually stayed an hour and a half. But he was it. Now, why did I end up staying longer? Because there were 2 other people who had been talking to each other, and they invited me to talk to them. One was Mexican, the other was Asian. And we got a table by ourselves. There was nobody else who ever came over to say hi. They didn't want to take your meal, nothing. So I had just these 2 people to talk to. And it was probably 30, 35 people there. So us 3 basically at our own table, and no one else even cared to talk to us. This is supposed to be professionals. I pretty much ended my association with the group after that because I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute, you know what? For business, I will go pretty much anywhere I want to go. But if you don't want my money, I'll take my money elsewhere. And so I left that group. Probably left the opportunity behind to basically be able to network, but I realized, you know what, those people don't want to talk to me. And I never forced myself on anyone. I learned that when I grew up. So that's the first story. The second story involves an organization called SHRM, which is Society for Human, that's a SHRM, Human Resources Management. Anyway, since I also do leadership and diversity training and, employee training, I joined this group back in 2002. And I was a member of that group for about 3 years, I think. And I went to different meetings, it cost enough, but I went to the meetings and I met a few people here and there. And then there was an all-day seminar that they were holding at this one place. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to go to the all-day seminar. It gave me a nice chance to meet a few more people. It may be a little less formal than the normal meetings. You go to meetings for an hour and a half, but this was going to be an all-day thing. I'm thinking, this should work out great. So I go to this meeting. And out of nearly 200 people, once again, I'm the only minority in the room. Used to it. That's okay. I go into the first session. They're talking about healthcare and insurance. Wait a minute. At that point, I'd been in healthcare over 20 years. So I know a little bit about this. So after hearing a few things and there were some questions being asked and no one was answering, I go to try to answer and I get shut down. Now, the reason I got shut down is because I was not an HR person. They saw me as someone coming from the outside looking to market to them, which may have been true for leadership and diversity, but they were talking healthcare. I had the background. I knew the answers to their questions, but they shut me down, did not want me to participate at all. I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm a member of the group. I pay membership. Fine. So I left. I go out. Now, at lunchtime, I go get my food. I'm basically sitting at a place by myself, and this guy joins me at the table. Okay, fine. Look, someone actually came to my table. So we start talking, and he's an HR manager at some organization there, and he asked me what I did, so I told him what I did. And he says to me, the problem with this organization is they have people like you. And I'm thinking, what? And he says, and it's not anything personal. The thing is that we need HR people. This is what we come in for. They bring people like you who offer services you're trying to market to us. And the thing is that it's not just us doing it. Now, we know we need you because we're too busy actually working to be allowed to take over some of the office positions. Therefore, it has to be people like you who's independent, so you're not really working, to try to put things like this together and to be most of the management of the board. I'm thinking, wow, this is just a day that's not going well at all. And then later on, here we are, there's this kind of theater that they had, and they were taking all the questions, and a couple of people said, we don't know anybody in the area who does diversity. And nobody knew anyone who does diversity. I did diversity. But based on how everything else had gone during the day, I kept my mouth shut. That's another group that I dropped. And like I said, I was paying, what, $155, $160 a year, plus the whatever the amount was for the regular members, regular meetings. I'm thinking, wow. Now, the second one might not have necessarily been about race, but here's the thing. I felt totally alone. There wasn't anyone that I could really go to talk about anything. I knew a couple of other people in there, but, during lunch, none of those people came to talk to me. I greeted a couple of people when I first got there, so it's not like no one didn't know I was there. Nothing. There was one guy there I actually went to high school with. Used to be friendly with him in high school. Nothing. Why do we need inclusion? Because things like that happen. Sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not intentional. And if you've got a lot of folks like me who are the onlys, who feel like there's just sometimes no one that you can go talk to about your issues, then why bring them into the organization in the first place? And of course, I know why you're doing it. I mean, sometimes you actually are doing it because you're trying to hire the best person. But a lot of times you're just trying to hit initiatives. Well, trying to hit initiatives does not work. It just doesn't. I could tell other stories, but I'm going to say those for another time, that shows that when you just bring people in just because you've got numbers to hit, you don't give them enough attention, you don't train them well, you don't really care. During lunchtime, they never sit with anybody who either like them or not like them. It is just a lonely existence. And you know, at least when I was working at hospitals, even though most of the time I was an only, um, because I made myself kind of valuable, I got a little bit more attention and got people who would talk to me. If I had come in and I couldn't give anybody any service, if I couldn't help to improve the hospital in the ways that I could, I don't think anyone ever really would have talked to me. But we'll come back to that another time. Now, I have written about succession planning for women and minorities. In healthcare, there's a lot of women, and there's a lot of women leaders. Maybe not at the upper, the very top levels, but there's a lot of women. And there's a lot of minorities who are working but not in leadership positions. So we need to have more of that. We need to have more people in other organizations. For instance, like I said, there were probably 200 people in that room. Out of that, those 200 people, maybe at least half of them worked at HR at businesses in town. It could have been more, but still at least half of them. Not a single minority at a single place in HR. That's a shame. But it was the same when I was, the president of this organization. There were nobody in the area. The one who was the closest at the time when I was still president was in the Albany area. And I don't know how long she lasted because I only saw her for a few meetings and I never saw her again. This is just one of those kind of things. I'm not really whining here. I am basically telling some truths. Sometimes you just have to tell the truth. You have to get it out there and let people know. This is what happens. We are not whining. We're not looking for more than anyone else. We are looking for fairness. We're not even looking for equality. We're looking for fairness. We want to have these opportunities. There should be more. I could talk about, you know what? I am going to be talking about other things. This is not the only topic I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to kind of change up a little bit here. Sometimes I offer advice on things. That's been the bulk of what I've done. It's time to get real, people. And I'm about to start getting real. Hey, what have I got to lose, right? My name is Mitch Mitchell, TT Mitchell Consulting Incorporated. Check out my links below if you want to talk to me or just check out what I do. I hope you watch the video. Let's talk. Nothing can ever be solved unless we're willing to talk about these things. Got a lot to offer, a lot to share. I'd love to hear some of your feedback. You take care, and I hope you have a wonderful week.